On March 23rd, I was in the kitchen happily making pies. We had a pile of apples that needed to be used, and since I was cooking the next day, I thought, pies. I like to make pies. I learned to make a decent crust from my mom, and so I was in the kitchen. One pie was finished. Of course, we had to have a regular one with wheat flour and butter. Then we had one that was regular flour but dairy-free. And then we had one that was gluten-free and dairy-free. I covered all the bases. One pie was completely finished, the regular pie. One pie just had a few more minutes to go. And the third pie, it was all assembled, just needed a top put on it. But right in the middle of that, I experienced excruciating pain down my hip and left leg. My left leg got weak and I couldn't stand. So someone brought me a chair and I continued giving Venerable Deiki instructions of how to finish the pie. Thinking, oh, this will pass. But after 15 or 20 minutes, we thought maybe it's good to call Venerable Jigme, our nurse practitioner. And so she came in, and we don't have a wheelchair at the Abbey, but someone got a office chair with wheels, and they wheeled me into the lift and took me downstairs to one of the bedrooms. And Venerable Jigme kindly tucked me in with some muscle relaxants and eventually a pain pill. So after a fitful night, a visit to the ER the next day was very inconclusive. And the ER doctor sent me back to my GP, who I couldn't see for a week. So that was a little frustrating. So I laid on the bed for a week in quite a lot of pain. But eventually I saw her, and she asked me to wait 2 more weeks because situations like this often resolve on their own. So I guess you could call this a sciatic attack. And it's a term that commonly is used to describe any pain that originates in the lower back and radiates down the leg. Sciatica is most commonly occurs when there's a herniated disc or a bone spur on the spine, or a narrowing of the spine that compresses on the nerve. And this causes inflammation and pain and sometimes numbness or tingling in the leg and the feet. So although the pain is associated with sciatica, although that pain can be severe, most cases resolve within 3 or 4 weeks. So that's why they ask you to lay on your bed for 3 or 4 weeks. Longest 3 weeks in my life, I tell you. But a certain amount of disc degeneration, I learned, is quite normal. It's part of the normal aging process. So they're reluctant to do imaging on people over 60 because they'll find something, and then they have to fix it. Seriously. Sciatica is a very common complaint. About 40% of people in the US experience sciatica sometimes during their life. Venerable Tarpa's had it 5 times, she told me. So she has quite a bit of experience with this. And back pain itself is the 3rd most common reason people visit their healthcare provider. Luckily, we had just finished a beautiful 3-month retreat on Medicine Buddha, so my mind has been pretty positive through all of this, with just a few fleeting moments of despair, like, oh my God, this is going to be this way the rest of my life. And as I said before, this was one of the most powerful retreats I've experienced. And karma can ripen at any time, whether it's at the end of a retreat or in the middle of a retreat or no retreat at all. Karma can ripen, and does ripen, doesn't it? The Lamrim Chimmo describes how negativities can be purified in different ways. And it's quite interesting that one way is that when a small suffering occurs, instead of a large suffering as a rebirth in a hell realm, I'll take this instead of a hell realm rebirth. Thank you very much. Or another way is that a mere headache in the present life can be experienced instead of ripening of a karmic seed as a lower realm rebirth, or sometimes it doesn't even ripen at all. Or the karmic seed whose effect you must experience for a long time can be experienced for a much shorter time. So there are many different ways that karma can ripen. There's no certainty about how negativities are removed because it depends on so many factors. It depends on whether the purification is of great or little strength, or whether the remedy is one in which the 4 opponent powers are complete or incomplete, intense or not intense, of long or short duration, and so forth. Many different factors contribute. So in this retreat, I was meditating a lot on developing equanimity and bodhicitta through the 7-fold instruction of cause and effect. And I've heard it said from different geshis and lamas that meditating on bodhicitta includes all four opponent powers, and that therefore it's one of the best purification methods that we can engage in. So generating bodhicitta itself is refuge, isn't it? It's refuge, and it's the power of reliance, is bodhicitta, correcting our relationship with holy beings. The remedial action is all the steps of generating bodhicitta: equanimity, loving kindness, compassion, wholehearted resolve. The wish to attain enlightenment for the welfare of all beings is the determination not to create non-virtue again. And the power of regret is not specifically stated, but I guess you could say it's implicit. So all four opponent powers are there. So I've been relatively happy that this is ripening as an injury in this life rather than a hell realm rebirth. In the first week, there were moments that felt like a hell realm. My leg felt like it was being crushed. And there were times where my leg felt like it was on fire. Nerve pain is very different than any muscle pain that I've ever experienced before. So very powerful reminders of how sensitive I am and how I would not be able to tolerate a lower realm rebirth. Although you don't have a choice. You have to tolerate it. But it'd be miserable. And I've also been on muscle relaxants and a particular nerve medication that makes my mind quite dull, not very sharp. And so it's kind of like being in the animal realm. You know, at one time of my life, this might have been fun. But right now, I value a clear mind, so it's a little frustrating. So basically, I've been in bed since March 23rd. The first week, I didn't get out of bed except to pee. The second week, I added sitting for meals to my regimen. And this third week, I began coming upstairs for breakfast and lunch. But by the afternoon, I have to lay down again. So most of the day is spent in bed. Although the doctor said, don't stay in bed all the time. What do? She said, follow your body, whatever it says. But again, my mind has been surprisingly happy throughout these past 3 weeks as I have laid there counting my blessings, seriously. I have the Dharma in my life, so I have the Dharma to work with this situation, to help me with my mind and understand why these things happen, why bad things happen to good people. And as long as I have a body, I can expect to experience all three types of dukkha, right? Suffering of pain, dukkha of pain, change, and pervasive dukkha. I live in a safe place. I am not a refugee in Ukraine running for my life. I'm not being bombed. There are not bombs falling around me. I live in a safe place. I value that, cherish that every day. I have people caring for me. One of our long-term guests, Mary Grace, who was here for the Vajrasattva retreat, didn't miss a beat. She just jumped right in, started bringing me tea every morning and changing out my cold packs from the freezer. And she was very kind, and her loving presence was really healing for me. And also community members have been very kind in bringing me things from Gotami or Ananda, my office in Ananda, running errands for me, putting the arms back on the handicapped toilet. Thank you very much. I have plenty to eat and drink. You know, it's been so sobering to read. I probably read way too much news because I have internet access here, but it's sobering to read how many full cities in Ukraine don't have access to water, electricity, gas, necessities of life. And here I am, I have access to everything. I have access to good medical care. I'll see my GP on Thursday and she'll probably order an MRI. Luckily in Newport, we have a mobile MRI, so we have access to that. And I have Apple Care. Thank you, Washington residents. I have time and space to heal. You know, I've been able to keep up with a few of my jobs, printing rotas from my bedroom. But I can spend the day with my mind in the Dharma. And, you know, the biggest temptation is to read too much news. But other than that, I can spend my time reading and practicing and transforming, doing Tonglen. I'm receiving prayers and dedications and distant Reiki from people all over the world. The Singaporeans are praying for me. Thank you very much. It means a lot. And understanding some idea of just how many causes and conditions are involved in experiencing such a situation, and also how many causes and conditions are involved in healing such a condition, allows my mind to relax and not knowing how long this is going to take. So whether it takes 2 weeks or 2 months or 2 years, according to Venerable Tarpa, sometimes it takes that long. I have so much to be grateful for, and gratitude has been shown to be a real healing agent. so we can count our blessings.